The Skyraider, a small yet legendary airplane that saw action in the Korean and Vietnam Wars, has been dubbed by some military analysts as the best attack aircraft ever made. But that was then. There's a new attack aircraft in the skies that's ready to take its place and solidify the US as the most versatile and capable aerial force. Call it the sequel. Call it the upgrade. Call it the Skyraider II. This new version started life as a modest agricultural plane designed for crop dusting and firefighting. But these unassuming aircraft were re-engineered and equipped with Hellfire missiles, precision bombs, radar, and encrypted communication and surveillance systems. Now that's an upgrade. On April 3, 2025, the US Air Force Special Operations Command, or SOCOM, officially accepted delivery of its first OA-1K Skyraider II at Herbold Field in Florida. In resurrecting the name of a legendary aircraft from America's most controversial wars, the plane was reborn as a platform that could reshape how special operations forces fight in the modern era. The turboprop-powered OA-1K, a militarized derivative of the popular air tractor AT-802 crop duster, is a tail-dragging design like the much larger piston-engine Skyraider it honors. But calling it just a weaponized crop duster is a massive understatement of what American engineers have created. The Skyraider II represents a paradigm shift in military thinking that comes just in time when drones, AI, and widespread surveillance have reached their peaks. The Skyraider's design moves away from jets that cost hundreds of millions of dollars, need pristine runways, and require seamless integration with ground-based systems and control centers. Instead, it's meant to be a rugged, adaptable platform that can operate from anywhere and do anything. So let's dive into what makes the new Skyraider so great, and to do that, we have to take a page out of history. The original A-1 Skyraider was far more than just an aircraft. It practically defined the attack aircraft's role in contemporary air forces. At the tail end of World War II, Douglas Aircraft Company developed the OA-1K's namesake, originally designated the AD-1, to be a carrier-based attack aircraft. US Navy and Marine Corps units used variants of the plane extensively during the Korean War, but it was in the skies over Vietnam that the Skyraider earned its reputation as an indestructible workhorse that could absorb punishment and keep flying. The Skyraider notably offered significantly greater endurance and ordnance capacity, carrying upwards of 8,000 pounds of munitions spread across up to 15 hardpoints under the wings and fuselage, along with 4 wing-mounted 20mm cannons. This loadout will be similar to jet aircraft coming to service at the same time, with a much smaller overall weight and radar profile. The advantage of a piston-based engine was its sustainability in the air. Sure, supersonic jets could stream in and out of combat zones in minutes, but this meant that they would only be suitable for quick fire and return missions. The Skyraider could loiter for hours, providing sustained fire support that saved countless lives. The choice to resurrect this name wasn't just nostalgic sentiment. The AT-802U was officially designated the OA-1K in late 2022, with the primary contractor being L3 Harris. The designation implied the aircraft to be an updated version of the long-retired A-1 Skyraider. It was a return to proven concepts, re-engineered for modern battlefield requirements to be as adaptable and as self-capable as possible in the age of uncertainty and technological fog of war. And just like the first Skyraider, the OA-1K is a small, agile aircraft with attack capabilities. Both Skyraiders feature a tail wheel, a small wheel under the aircraft's tail. This allows them to take off on much shorter runways or no runways at all. The design of the agricultural craft means it doesn't need more than a small stretch of relatively even terrain to be able to pick up speed and fly. This can be a vital advantage if the Skyraiders are going to be deployed in rural or war-torn areas where traditional aircraft infrastructure simply doesn't exist. The same applies to landing, with the small plane capable of using dirt strips, traditional taxiways, or even highways if need be. Then there's the subject of the transformation from agricultural aircraft to a military weapon system. When L3 Harris and Air Tractor ultimately started the militarization transformation, they weren't starting from scratch. The platform had already proven its durability in combat-adjacent operations. It just needed a bit of a kick to get it all the way there. A version of the AT-802 has been used for years to eradicate acres of coca leaves, which are used in the production of illicit drugs, primarily cocaine. This aircraft had already been operating in hostile environments, taking small arms fire from drug cartels while conducting counter-narcotics missions. Because of this type of conflict, the manufacturers outfitted the AT-802 with ballistic armor that can withstand small arms fire to the hull and only suffer small dents. Meanwhile, the cockpit was built of a steel tube frame that acted as a roll cage and supported the entire weight of the aircraft. The new physical specifications reveal an aircraft designed for unpredictable missions. With an empty weight of 7,800 pounds and a maximum gross weight of 16,000 pounds, the OA-1K can carry substantial mission payloads, including fuel, munitions, and advanced sensor packages. That's roughly 6,000 pounds of payload capacity, comparable to what many fighter jets can carry. Then there's also the massive fuel capacity of 740 US gallons distributed between the wings and the fuselage, which gives the aircraft the most valuable capability in modern warfare: persistence. With this capacity, L3 Harris has suggested the aircraft can fly out to an area up to 200 miles away and loiter there for up to 6 hours with a typical combat load. In an area where most military aircraft measure their time over targets in minutes, the Skyraider II measures it in hours. For special operations forces operating behind enemy lines or in remote locations, having several hours of continuous air support overhead can mean the difference between mission success and catastrophic failure. But beyond being able to work on extended missions, the new Skyraider's weapon systems have been balanced to pack enough punch for its weight limit and still maintain the operational versatility to be used anywhere, anytime. It comes with 10 external hardpoints, 2 on the center line and 8 under the wings, allowing it to carry a broad selection of guided and unguided weapons. These include AGM-114 Hellfire missiles, Advanced Precision Kill Weapon System 2 (APKWS-2), laser-guided 70mm rockets, and 500-pound GBU-12 laser-guided bombs. There are also plans to add customized weapon pods that would allow the Skyraider II to launch stores from the Common Launch Tube (CLT), which could include precision-guided missiles and air-launched drones. This weapon's capacity rivals that of much larger and more expensive aircraft while maintaining the flexibility to adapt to different mission requirements. But the modernized designs have also opened the doors to exploring much more ambitious weapons configurations. In 2023, L3 Harris also said that it had modeled potential loadouts for the aircraft that included AGM-84 Harpoons and AGM-158B Joint Air-to-Surface Standoff Missile Extended Ranges JASSM-ERs. The AGM-84 and AGM-158B are traditionally air-launched anti-ship and land attack cruise missiles, respectively. The ability to carry anti-ship missiles would transform the Skyraider II from a simple light attack aircraft into a potential anti-naval threat in the Pacific. The JASSM-ER capability would give it the ability to strike targets hundreds of miles away, turning this humble crop duster into a standoff strike platform. This weapon's flexibility extends beyond current systems. The military has been relatively tight-lipped on potential weapons the Skyraider might carry in the future, but there is a growing array of relevant designs already in various stages of development within the US military, as well as by private industry. For example, the aforementioned integration of air-launched drones could turn each Skyraider II into a mobile drone mothership, capable of deploying swarms of unmanned systems for reconnaissance, electronic warfare, or direct attack. But to be useful for any situation, the new Skyraider also needed to get eyes in the sky. This was accomplished by giving the small agricultural plane 4 sets of scanners, with options for more. These include 3 visual scanners, which are 2 20-inch and 1 15-inch MX series turrets made by L3 Harris itself. The 4th scanner is a radar developed by Thales, which works in a completely different electromagnetic spectrum for redundancy. According to Buck Walker, one of the forerunners of the program, this provides multiple layers of surveillance up to and including going back in time to check visual records of targets. The scanners are paired with an AI-supported video processing system. The AI takes the input of all the sensors mounted onto the plane, then processes objects found within the video feeds and stores and sorts that information to be fetched by the operator. This allows the Skyraider to be a game-changer for surveillance, minimizing the information overload from multiple video feeds by allowing the operator to force the AI to focus on one target, such as a specific vehicle or a building in an urban scene. And the new Skyraider's most revolutionary capability isn't its weapons or sensors, but its deployment flexibility. The plane is designed to be deployed quickly and can be disassembled within 6 hours to fit inside a C-17 cargo aircraft. It can then be reassembled to mission-ready status within a single day. This deployment capability, where the aircraft doesn't actually have to spend fuel or have a dedicated aircraft carrier for long-range transport, can transform how America can project power globally. Traditional fighter jets require extensive ground infrastructure, weeks of preparation, and significant logistical support. The Skyraider II can be transported anywhere in the world that a C-17 can land, assembled overnight, and be conducting combat operations within 48 hours of initial deployment. Furthermore, the small frame means that the plane can be transported to any military base that the US or its allies operate. Given that it has very few limitations on what would constitute a suitable takeoff runway, this allows military bases that can't support conventional aircraft to gain much-needed air support at 2 days' notice. One of the main issues that come with developing a new attack aircraft is that modern warfare has evolved drastically in the past 2 decades. The Skyraider II comes decades after the previous successful attack aircraft project that wasn't a jet multipurpose fighter. This creates additional challenges to how it can be utilized and where it fits into the established hierarchy of military weapons. Over the past few years, an attack aircraft needed to be designed for counterinsurgency operations in a fully controlled airspace, where the biggest threat came from small arms fire and improvised explosive devices, not sophisticated surface-to-air missiles or stealth fighters. This somewhat aligns with the current design of the Skyraider, as it has practically no stealth capabilities and limited defenses against anything bigger than small arms. However, L3 Harris suggests that the improved communication suite to go alongside the sensors would allow the aircraft to function more independently than before. Walker notes that the US military at one point needed as many as 21 people to coordinate a single strike by an aircraft. ranging from ground crews to surveillance officers to the actual pilot. With the Skyraider, the goal is for that entire pipeline to be replaced almost entirely by the plane itself. But the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine and growing tensions with China might force the Pentagon to change its focus. As evidenced by the war in Ukraine, air superiority is no longer a given when a larger country is at war with a smaller one, as Russia has repeatedly failed to control the skies over Ukraine. This same concept would likely apply should the US enter a military conflict with Russia or China. In a contested airspace, the Skyraider would likely see little use, especially given the advancements in air defenses. This leaves Skyraider as a niche piece of equipment that allows the US to exert aerial supremacy for counterinsurgency operations and limited air support for areas without proper aircraft infrastructure. This would allow the US Air Force to reserve its standard fighter jets for long-distance operations, which also adds another layer to the strategy. You see, by creating a mobile and independent aircraft that can carry a large array of weapons, including those in development, the US can keep a tighter leash on military secrets surrounding its more ambitious programs like stealth bombers or fighters. The answer to whether Skyraider II would be relevant for the types of conflict the US is currently involved in will likely ultimately be decided in budget meetings. SOCOM initially intended to acquire 75 aircraft, but its fiscal 2025 budget reduced the planned fleet to 62. And then came new cuts for the FY 2026, which would mean that only 45 aircraft will be on contract by 2028. Beyond that, future procurement remains unclear. The budget cuts reflect broader strategic shifts within the Pentagon. In December 2023, the Government Accountability Office, or GAO, urged the Department of Defense to reconsider the need for 75 of these aircraft. It cited the fact that there was no proof that the US needed that many aircraft at present, given that the structure they support technically doesn't even exist yet. GAO also suggested that SOCOM order a smaller batch to analyze the impact these aircraft would have once tested and integrated into the wider military. Considering that the US withdrew from Afghanistan just a few years before the announcement, it's likely that the GAO believed rural warfare involving the US on foreign soil would finally stop. Unfortunately for the aircraft, this creates a vicious cycle for the program. Lower production numbers drive up per-unit costs, making the aircraft less attractive compared to alternatives. The unit cost of around $40 million for SOCOM makes widespread export success unlikely. In contrast, Brazil's Embraer dominates that niche with its Super Tucano offering second-hand units for $16 to $18 million. But despite domestic budget pressures, international interest in the Skyraider II remains strong. L3Harris had reportedly received export approval from the US Department of State for 22 potential overseas buyers, with another 15 countries being under review for potential sales. This international market could prove crucial for the program's long-term viability. Allied nations operating in similar threat environments, from African peacekeeping operations to border security missions, could find the Skyraider II's rural warfare capabilities perfectly suited to their needs. And countries that can't afford modern F-35s but need more capability than basic trainers could see the Skyraider II as an ideal middle ground. In response to the increased international demand, L3Harris has actually increased production to deliver the first planes to Allied nations. This expansion of production capabilities, while domestic orders are still being cut year after year, would suggest L3Harris is betting heavily on international sales to sustain the program. This creates an interesting dynamic where foreign operators drive innovation and capabilities development for a US-made aircraft system. Something similar has been happening in Ukraine, where Ukrainian developments are being copied to NATO countries based on real-world results from the war in Ukraine. But even if the gamble to go international does succeed, the Skyraider II might not see the light of day if it gets technologically outmatched by unmanned aerial vehicles, i.e. UAVs or drones. The Skyraider II is built around a non-stealthy weapons platform designed to survive small arms fire and provide counterinsurgency support, precisely the type of design being pushed by larger drone manufacturers. Modern UAVs, such as General Atomics Mojave, can now operate from rough terrain and can also mount a minigun to counter some of an attack aircraft's offensive power. The rise of unmanned systems directly competes with the planned roles of manned light attack aircraft, which could explain why the idea of modernizing the Skyraider took so long. Drones don't require pilot training, don't risk human lives, and can often accomplish the same missions at lower cost. The MQ-9 Reaper drone, for example, can carry a similar suite of weapons, even if its loadout is a bit lighter, and provides comparable surveillance capabilities, while also operating from the same minimalistic airfields as the Skyraider II. That being said, a manned aircraft retains certain advantages that drones cannot easily replicate. Human pilots can make complex tactical decisions in the moment and adapt to rapidly changing situations, something that even modern AI might have problems with. Plus, it's safe to say that soldiers on the ground expecting air support would much rather appreciate having human oversight. That level of camaraderie is impossible to replicate with a drone. The biggest challenge ahead of the Skyraider II is proving its relevance in potential Pacific Ocean conflicts against China. The vast distances in the Pacific theater, as well as the sophisticated air defenses that China can deploy, create an environment seemingly hostile to turboprop aircraft. However, Air Force leadership is supposedly exploring concepts that could make the Skyraider II relevant in high-end conflicts. One such example is the idea of launched effects that would transform the Skyraider II from a direct attacker against defended targets into a dedicated platform for deploying long-range drones or missiles that add additional hundreds of miles to its operational range. This standoff capability would allow the Skyraider II to contribute to high-end conflicts while remaining outside the range of enemy air defenses. This ties in with the earlier idea of incorporating drone-carrying equipment and capabilities, as the underlying technology would likely be similar in nature and implementation. The OA-1K Skyraider II represents more than just another military aircraft. It embodies a philosophical debate about the future of American military power. Right now, there are two different approaches to this debate. One that leans towards small-scale supportive weapons like drones, and the other that remains committed to large-scale force projection with aircraft carriers. The truth likely lies somewhere in between. The Skyraider II's ability to be deployed rapidly on unfavorable terrain and maintain extended surveillance and flight time extends the operational capabilities of the Air Force, since that exact combination hasn't existed for the past few decades. The manufacturer's plan to incorporate a modular design that can be adapted more precisely to mission needs suggests that it's confident in the aircraft's ability to deliver on its large promise. If the aircraft can successfully transition from a counterinsurgency platform to a relevant contributor in multi-domain operations, it could secure its place in America's arsenal for decades to come. If it remains trapped in its original conception as a low-intensity conflict aircraft, it may become another casualty of budget cuts and force redevelopments. Thanks for watching. To learn more about the other aspect of aerial force projection, stealth fighters, check out our analysis of the unveiled F-47 in this video. Or to stay updated on the latest developments in military technology and strategy, subscribe to The Military Show for daily videos.